Hey guys, you can see I'm really rugged up right now. I got the gloves and shit because it's like 12 degrees in this house, Celsius, which is freezing for Australian standards, but it's winter down here. I just want to make a video about, do women have easier lives than men? And there's probably going to be some generalizations in this video, so don't get offended if that doesn't fit you, but obviously there's exceptions to every rule, you know. But I just wanted to sort of broach the topic because I'm just thinking about how miserable life is for most men, and certainly myself. I'm not really enjoying it at all, but I made other videos about that, so I'm not gonna go into that. I'm almost 25 years old. I'll be 25 next week. Achieved sweet FA with my life. Fuck all, that means. And it's depressing, What's more depressing though is having zero friends and zero romantic interests or experiences, really. But anyway, I just wanted to sort of talk about this topic, Now, I'm not saying there's no good or principled women out there. Of course there are. There's plenty of good women out there, but the majority, in this day and age at least, the majority of women my age are unprincipled and don't really give a shit because they've been sort of led to believe that they're supremely valuable and that all men are shit, basically. And that's one thing I want to talk about is like how much propaganda there is like out there. Like as a man, you're just born into the world, constantly hammered into your head that you're shit or that you're like a rapist or something, or potential. You have the potential for that, like as if you have no moral code or anything. It's like this patronizing sort of bullshit all the time, especially my government in Australia. There's always these fucking ads about consent or domestic violence where it's always men's fault, and it's always like, oh, we need to teach 10-year-old boys not to be violent, or if they're just playing around, that's actually like they're gonna be a future wife beater or some shit. And it's like, what is this absolute the fucking state of the world, man? It's like this propaganda everywhere you look. Meanwhile, women, it's constantly like, oh, in the movies and shit, it's like, oh, they can do everything men can do, and they're always like super strong, never have any character flaws or anything. Or, I mean, I guess they do, but they're pretty much invincible, so it doesn't matter. But they never have any trials and tribulations that actually affect them in movies. You see that a lot these days, even with fucking Furiosa that just came out. Literally, her character is always on top of everything and always picks up after the guys. It's like she has no development whatsoever in that movie. So it is kind of a valid criticism to say it's kind of a girl boss movie. And it's not a bad movie in general. I'm just saying her character, literally, just no development at all. It's like her mum gets taken, and then, I won't spoil it, but she I don't think she ever. I guess her arm, something else happens to her arm. I can't remember all of the movie, but mostly it's just bullshit. Sorry about that. But yeah, that movie is like symptomatic of like a bigger problem in Hollywood now. It's like there's no strong male role models for starters in Hollywood because all the women are taking up that archetypal strong male character. But when they wrote men like that, they would have the men go through horrific shit or like almost insurmountable shit and get like completely, you know, the whole point is that, you know, they have a comeback. They don't just immediately beat the villain or whatever, right? But they don't do that anymore with these girl boss type films. And I'm not like not every movie is like that, but these days it's just like way more common. And I think that's kind of a valid reason for why that movie flopped. Another is like it's a Mad Max movie without Mad Max, so like who gives a fuck? And it hasn't even got Charlize Theron in it, so it's like again, who gives a fuck? You know, Chris Hemsworth was good in it, but yeah. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about fucking movies. But yeah, it's just this constant messaging like that men are like evil from birth or like have the propensity to do this horrific shit. And it's like, you know, if someone's gonna do shit like that, they're gonna do shit like that regardless. Regardless of your fucking millions of dollars you funnel into these propagandized messages and stuff that you plaster all over television and the media and shit. But that's just one thing. It's like men are always just seen as the bad guys from the get-go. That's another thing is women for the same crimes get lighter sentences generally than men do. And they get away with a lot more shit, like because of their, you know, they use their charms, I guess, or whatever. But so I guess that's one example of men having it harder in life. And so as a man, it's like you're expected to be on top of everything. Otherwise, you get no attention. But men don't give a shit about how, you know, like women can act childish and it's not going to turn men off generally, unless they're a complete bitch, in which case it might. But, you know, it's just these, these, the different ways men are treated and, it's like they're always from the get-go sort of viewed as wrong or the bad guy. And this culture these days is like it's like men are viewed as like a hive mind. So it's like we have to take responsibility for shit other men do. It's like I had nothing, or it's like we take the blame in general as a gender for the shit that bad guys do. It's like it's like what a joke. But the funny thing is, women are a lot more like a hive mind than men are. I'm not saying they are completely, but it's like, you know, men go and do their own shit. They don't really care what other people say because, you know, people criticize you enough, you kind of stop giving a shit, right? Or that kind of thing. They don't need external validation. I mean, everyone needs some external validation, but for the most part, they can just do shit, you know, without caring about, you know, what other people think of them. Whereas women, it's always about perception and what other women would say or what other men would say even. um, they don't do things. They don't generally go against the grain. They don't generally do things that might upset the status quo, sort of thing. It's kind of like they care a lot more about how they're perceived, and they're a lot more social. So it's constantly, you know, and that was kind of a good thing, in the past because it stopped unprincipled women from doing shit like being promiscuous and stuff and sleeping around, which obviously is detrimental to society. I mean, look at the world today. It's a complete shit show. These average women doing OnlyFans, sleeping with hundreds of guys, and then settling down with some fucking limp wristed beta who's worked for decades or a decade on their career to get money, and they're gonna waste it on some other guy's kids. It's like I don't I don't want that life. I don't think any self-respecting man wants that life. It's a different story if they're like a single father getting with a single mother or something. But it's like most men most men ultimately prefer a virgin, really, to marry. But failing that, someone who hasn't slept around much. In this day and age, it's like like I said, it's like the status quo. It's like nobody really has cares about traditional values, and a lot of the people that say they do are like fake. They're sort of plants to grifters and stuff. They don't really live by those principles. But the thing with women is like, back in the day, if women were sleeping around, they'd be judged by other women. But these days, with social media, every woman is connected to every other woman, and they're all constantly bombarded, in the West at least, by the messaging that, men are shit, men are evil, men are this and that. You don't need a man to be happy, etc. And so they go around and do whatever the fuck they want, and which obviously isn't good for the family unit and for society. And it's why the divorce rate is increasing so much. It's why the male suicide rate's increasing so much, because most women don't really care about the vast majority of men. And as a man, it's like, as a woman, you can't really be lonely. You could be alone for a little while, but in general, it's like there's always going to be someone. It's not that hard to get attention or to make friends, I guess, or make new relationships. Whereas a man, it's like, as an average dude, it's like a lot of people treat you like you're not even, like you don't matter at all. So I don't know. There's just different societal expectations these days. Though it's like women have all the opportunities and shit, and men are falling behind in like every metric. University graduates are mostly women these days, and hell, high school graduates even. There's so many affirmative action programs and shit, and all this crap. It's like there's no meritocracy anymore, so that's one reason why everything's kind of shit these days. And I'm not saying women like don't have anything to contribute. Of course they do, but it's like, the best ideas should win and the best people should get the jobs and stuff. Speaking of jobs, it's like these days, as a man, it's like the only reason you do anything is for pussy. Really, well, not really, but like female affection and love and whatever, if that even exists. Um, so in this day and age, it's like so hard just to find a fucking job. You have to send out like hundreds of applications and shit, and you usually get ignored by pretty much everyone. Unless you stand out like dramatically these days. It's like it's so fucked. And the economy in general, everything's just so expensive because of incompetent politicians. And the housing market too. And it's like you have to be an idiot to not understand why men are committing suicide at such high rates. It's like there's no promise of anything better. It's quite literally just getting worse with every passing year, in the West at least. So like I said, the only reason it's like average guys are pretty much forced out of the dating pool by dating apps and shit. Women go sleep with the top guys, in terms of looks and attraction or wealth. So men usually get no attention. They're working a job they hate, which under normal circumstances you could do if you had a family, like if you had kids or a wife, because you could do it for them. Because men, most men don't really live for themselves. They do it for their families or, some higher purpose at least. But in this day and age, it's like there's no opportunities, and, men aren't in relationships. There's like that statistic. It's like women are twice as likely to be in a relationship than men are. And obviously they're not all heterosexual ones, but at the same time it's like a relationship, it definitely matters. It definitely matters, to, you know, it's a drain on your mental health when you have no social connections. And it kind of, you know, it's really not healthy to be alone like all the time. Be by yourself all the fucking time. But this is the life we're sort of forced into, or it's like every chance, everything you try everything you can to sort of improve, to be good enough for these ridiculous standards that women have these days, or that even men have for, just society in general. It's like, and when you can't live up to these fucking ridiculous standards, it's like, what are you gonna do? Just either live miserable and alone for another half century or more, or kill yourself. So, you know, it's like you can't afford a house, you hate your job, you have no network, no social connections, no relationship prospects. Why would you want to keep living? You know, it's pretty fucking obvious to like anyone with two brain cells to knock around. But there's all this like bullshit. It's like men just need to cry more, and then that'll solve their problems. That's another thing, is men who are emotional around women, are they get the ick or whatever, which is another fucking thing I hate so much. It's like, you could go through an absolutely devastating time, and there's like some shallow woman is like, you know, just treats you like shit because you let a little bit of emotion out, which is human, right? We all have emotions. It's normal, right? Or it should be normal, but you know. And there's all these just mixed messages. It's like men need to be more emotional, but emotional men are pussies or violent or whatever, you know. And men need to be less angry, even though rage is like one of the driving forces for for men to sort of do anything. It's like to overcome anything. It's just pure rage. It kind of makes you, you know, pumps your adrenaline and stuff, and makes you sort of go the extra mile because you're just sick of your lease in life and that, you know. So that's life for most men in the world, and for most women these days, it's like, you know, encouraged to do everything. You know, you're never demonized really. I mean, on the internet maybe, but by the general public, by society, you know, you're always the victim or you're always innocent. Um, you know, you can sleep around, you can do whatever because nothing matters, even though it does matter to society, pair bonding and stuff. You know, it makes it harder for women to pair bond if they have more sexual partners, which is, you know, it's just fact. But they don't like to hear that. That's another thing is like, as a man, you can sort of, like, people tell you what you're doing wrong, and so you change it, or you try to at least. But as a woman, women just don't. Women double down. They don't like to hear that they're doing something wrong or self-destructive. I think women do self-destructive things because they get bored of life, because life is boring. And they think that if they do shit like that, it's gonna give them, gonna make them feel better or more whole. But in the long run, it's just kind of detrimental to them and to the world at large because, you know, you're just ruining yourself. It's like with anything, like alcoholism or anything. If you indulge too much in these poor behaviors, it's gonna affect you, you know, negatively. um, so I don't know. In general, I think obviously women, there are things, you know, I'm sure childbirth is hard, but a lot of women these days say they don't want kids, which I think is kind of bullshit. Like deep down, you know, what you realize is women say a lot of shit that they don't mean. They usually mean the opposite or just something else. But they just sort of go along with what's popular, the popular narrative. Truth is, a lot of women, I think, do want children, but they've spent their whole lives sleeping around with, you know, men who don't want them and don't want to provide for them. And, you know, then they get stuck with Beta Bill over there. And, you know, that marriage doesn't last because they get bored because of their bad habits that they developed. You know, obviously men and women habits make us who we are, so but with women these days everything kind of gets excused. Whereas as a guy, it's like you have to be perfect, and even then it's like a complete lie. Like they tell you do this, do that, and you get nothing because they just want to shut you up. Because there's this whole bullshit about the patriarchy. You know, society was built for men, which is a lie, obviously. Like I said, society was built by men, and men only do things for women for their approval and their affection or for pussy, you know, if you want to be crass. But so society was built to sort of woo women. That's all. That's pretty much it. That's the only reason men do shit. Is because they want to be loved, and it's within their power, I guess. Whereas women just have to kind of show up and they'll find someone. And if they don't, it's like it's pretty rare, I guess, these days. Whereas most men these days are completely fucking alone. It's getting dark in here. But yeah, society was built by men for women, you know. And people say historically, women have had a hard go. But if you really look into it, it's not entirely true. I mean, everyone sort of had a hard go historically, but men had the draft, and we still do have the fucking draft. Or in this country, I actually don't know, but in America, they do still have the draft. Men got the right to vote because they had the draft, and women got the right to vote without the draft, which, how is that equality at all? And, average men are just expected to lay down their life for society that demonizes them relentlessly with no reward or benefit. And it's like, what? Why? Why would I do that? I'm not, even at my lowest, I still have enough self-respect to sort of realize how raw of a deal it is. But anyway, I mean, it's sort of a toss-up, I guess. I think being an above-average man is better than being, like, if you have a life that's worth living, you have a great career, an engaging life, people who love you, hobbies and whatnot, if your life is enjoyable, then as a man, I would say that's probably better than being a woman in any walk of life. But in general, being an average guy or below is like way worse than being even a slightly below average woman. In this day and age, at least. I mean, maybe not in every period of time. I'm sure it was probably better to be a man in like the 50s and 60s. But in this day and age, with this sort of technological, brain-dead society, that's kind of ruined everything. I think technology has really fucked up everything. Social media, especially. In this day and age, I would say it's not rewarding or fulfilling to be a man or like an average guy. And you're always expected to instigate everything and sort of initiate with women. But these women have no principles and no scruples, and it's like, I don't want to marry someone like that, but the pool is shrinking, so what am I gonna do? And it's not like I have a chance anyway, a chance in hell with even a promiscuous woman, but who's like average looking, because standards are just fucked these days. But I think in the modern world, it's definitely easier to be a woman in general, but life isn't really easy for anyone. But I don't want to be like limp-wristed and say, oh well, because a lot of people do that. They go sort of, well, I'm not saying that life is easy for women, but you know, in some regards, it definitely is. There's no denying that, especially in the modern world. I think most men are treated like they're invisible, or they're sort of subhuman trash. Um, Whereas women, nowhere near that sort of treatment. And but if you ever talk about it, they want to shut you up, and that's men and women, like these sort of liberals and stuff. Because there's sort of all this propaganda about the patriarchy and shit. It's like it's really going well. This patriarchy that men have set up to benefit themselves, you know, that doesn't benefit them at all, but actually makes life so much fucking harder. Yeah, that's, jeez. I mean, who came up with that? Oh, we did, apparently. This wonderful life, we came up with that. You know, but it's not really fair. I'm not really, I don't enjoy life at all. Maybe if I had more confidence, but you can't just grow that out of your ass. You know, after university, it's like the world really does not give a shit about you. Even back then, they didn't really give a shit about me, but it's like the veil is totally lifted now. And, you know, you have to pay a fucking therapist just to talk to someone, which isn't really fair at all. But life isn't fair. Life's not fair. And life isn't really good at all. It's kind of a lie. They you know, proliferate, I guess. That sort of life is sort of this wonderful thing. It's wonderful if you're attractive and you're fit and you're wealthy, especially if you're wealthy, and you're tall as a guy. Otherwise, you might as well be dead, really. I mean, legitimately, it feels like that. It's like, you know, if I died tomorrow, no one would care. I always told myself I was going to kill myself before I turned 25 if I hadn't really got a life worth living or sort of a career rolling. And I haven't, and I'll be 25 next week. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. You know, and I'm not trying to say society is to blame for everything, or women. I'm not blaming my problems on women. At least not in totality. But yeah, it's just unfortunate what a lie everything is. Anyway, that's the video. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Hopefully, I'll have more than one subscriber by then. See you guys.